Yo, 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 what is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 529. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Carlos Romero,
Yo, 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 what's going on?
Richard Bailey Jr.,
What's up, everybody?
and Brian Manjoma.
I just don't think marathon will go the distance.
Uh-oh. That's great. That's Richard Bailey worthy right there, man. All right, man. So, yeah, you got the four of us tonight. Manny's still in Chi-Town, C2E2. Apparently, he had,
Oh, come on.
he had fun out there. Chris is out tonight. Adam's doing the Last of Us podcast, and Brett is still recuperating. But you never know with Brett. He may randomly show up like he did last time, So, yeah, man, we're going to get into it. And as Brian alluded to, we'll be answering your questions about Marathon, which had a preview, something or other over the weekend. There was a big event that happened a while ago, but now people are able to talk about it. So they had like a gameplay reveal, like a developer thing. What's up, Carlos?
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
Okay. And full disclosure, I was invited to this event, but, I'm not going to waste my time with that, My company probably wouldn't pay for that anyway, Nothing top tier. But yeah, let's get into it. So I kind of put everything kind of in a specific order for tonight. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth between different names here. All right, first up, Illustrated Dio, our boy. Marathon, Marathon was a classic Doom clone from the 90s, but now Bungie has resurrected it as a modern extraction shooter like Escape from Tarkov. What are your impressions based on the gameplay reveal trailer and previews? There's a couple other questions we'll get into. Like, I'm going to just weave them into this conversation. But yeah, Rich, I'll start with you. What did you think of Marathon?
I saw the gameplay overview, and I was not impressed whatsoever at what I had to see. I listened to, and I'm curious to hear, Tony, because you said you was invited to a preview event.
Yeah.
Was this event in California, or is it somewhere else?
No, it was, I think, Washington.
Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, it's in that area, the Northwest. It was up there, yeah.
Okay, so my thoughts is I wasn't impressed with what I saw. I saw a lot of other content creators talking about the event because they were at the event. And of course, I saw the gameplay. I'm not really sold on it. Now, I will also say that a couple of those content creators, they were talking about their experience. There's a lot of things that are alarming about this game. First and foremost, they did announce the September 23rd is the release date. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What I found was interesting is they were talking about certain aspects of the game, and some of the content creators said collectively, there is no story yet written for this game. Which, again, I don't know if that's really a surprise to anybody. We know how they handled Destiny 2 and Destiny. So I guess, but apparently they're going to come up with some type of story concept between now and, again, this game is launching in September. So that's cause for concern if you care about that type of stuff. But overall, it was nothing different about this game from anything else I've seen from other shooters that have already come out. And I'm thinking to myself, Bungie spent all this time. Obviously, they were continuing to update Destiny 2 with content when they could have just went on to Destiny 3 instead. But no, Marathon had to come out. But when I saw this game, I'm like, whatever. Let's move on to whatever else is next to play. I'm not interested in this game at all.
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of checked out, like, initially when it got announced, because I just assumed there was going to be like a Destiny clone. It's not exactly. It's an extraction shooter where basically the goal is, you grab a bunch of loot, you go to an extraction point, try to survive and get the fuck out of there. Like the Division has a mode like that within the black zone, or whatever the fuck it's called, the dark zone. But this is an entire game of that. That's the way I conceptualize it, because I've never played Escape from Tarkov. But yeah, so I'm kind of with you on that. I'm like, I'm not impressed. I'm done with these type of games. I know this is not a looter shooter, but it's in that vein, you know. I was thinking about this too, because like, would it be fair to put games like this, Destiny, and like maybe Overwatch into just the umbrella of live service games? Because they're different from each other, but they also have that commonality where it's like, this is not a story focused game. Marvel Rivals 2, I guess you could put it there. It's not really about story. It's more about getting in there, fucking people up, and also shooting some random PvE monsters and stuff. You know, so I don't know if that'll be an unfair assessment, but I'm kind of putting them under that umbrella. You know, basically, go ahead. What do you think, Carlos, of that?
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
but I will say, if that's the case, then I think we would start to think about games like Street Fighter as well.
But it does kind of fall into that too, if you think about it. Seasons, DLCs. So that's why I'm wondering if it's fair, because that is a very broad term. But modern fighting games would absolutely fall under that umbrella too. But I would play those, obviously, you know, because they're not a shooting game. So I guess there's room for nuance there. But regardless, this game, not really. Well, I'm not liking it. I also think, I know it's really colorful and everything, but I think it looks ugly. You know, it looks like vomit, basically. You know, like something about it. I'm not really feeling that rainbow, literally and figuratively. You know. Another question here from Kishak. Will Marathon fail like Concord, or can it prove doubters wrong by successfully expanding the extraction shooter genre to consoles, a market where this style of game is still largely untapped? Here's the thing. This game already has a leg up just because it's made by Bungie. You know, there's still a lot of goodwill from people who play Destiny for like the last 10 years or whatever. So those folks are probably going to jump on this, or at least, I'm not going to say all of them, because even Dio, who asked the question, he's hardcore Destiny guy. He still plays Destiny, and he's still unsure about this. So, but it does have more goodwill than you know, Firewalk Studios. Nobody knew who the fuck they were. So it has that advantage, but it's yet another one of these games that's trying to like milk that specific thing. And I don't know. And again, it's like, yeah, technically it's not a new franchise, but it kind of is, because motherfuckers have never heard of Marathon. Let's just be real. You know, Manny's the only person I know that's heard of it, you know?
Yeah, look, I'm not too pro this game because I'm not the target audience, so I don't know what they think. But I feel like it's not. It could be really successful, just because
could be.
We mentioned before it's a Bungie game, and the first Sony Bungie game, so they're gonna have a strong, you know, PR push. 2, it's a shooter game, and Bungie is great at making shooters. Yeah. I don't know, even with the Destinies, they make those mechanics. You know, they've mastered those mechanics. It doesn't have faced human characters, so we won't have that type of backlash and stuff that gets all the controversy these days. So it's stylized and everything. So I feel like it has a really good chance of being really successful. Extraction shooters, I've never played them. Like Tony mentioned, The Division is like the closest thing that I think I've played something like that has this type of mode on it. So yeah, I'm not too sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is successful, because I feel like people, you know, and Dio said the Destiny thing. Destiny fans are gonna like this, because Bungie does one thing really good, and like I mentioned previously, it's their mechanics. They traverse throughout all of their games. It's pretty addicting, actually, the way that they shoot people in this game. And I'm looking at some of the gameplay. The sniper rifle, man, it reminds me of Halo, the old Halo, the real Halo. So you never know.
Yeah. And then, go ahead.
Oh no, I just was going to say, I think Carlos made some good points. I don't think it's going to be a failure. Obviously, it's going to be crossplay. It'll be on Xbox as well as PC. But in my honest opinion, this is a perfect example of a game that the success is going to depend on how often they are updating it with content. Because that's the main issue with Destiny and Destiny 2, is that it takes Bungie quite a while to release updates, whether it's DLC expansions and stuff like that. So they need to have a very good roadmap for this game in order for it to be successful, especially with it coming out in September. Since they've announced that now, they definitely got to have the year one content plans already figured out internally. But I think this game will be successful depending on how well they are updating it. If it's not going to get updated regularly on a consistent basis, then it will fall off and be forgotten about.
Yeah.
And take this with the greatest grain of salt. I'm looking at, I saw at the Discord earlier. Apparently, this is the rumors is, and so rumors. It's slated to be potentially a $40 game.
Oh, okay, interesting. I heard some people complaining about that because they wanted this to be free to play.
No.
So I guess to them, Carlos, $40 is already too much.
Is to make it. Well, yeah. I mean, because if it's not a looter shooter, then I don't know. Does it even make sense to make this a free to play game? Because the looting part is the part that gets the people to continuously come back and generate more money. But I don't know.
But it's interesting because this is not a looter shooter, but it has looting and it has shooting. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of blurring the lines here. You know, it's like like to me, I'm like, there's a looter shooter, but the main hook is the extraction part. But it's still a looter shooter. You're still playing to get loot. I don't know. Very strange. And then here's a question from Black Metal. Then Brian, I want to get your thoughts on all of this. Would this game or live server games in general be better if I'll skip that first part. I'm scratching my head at Marathon and thinking, why isn't there a regular story mode? I feel many gamers also feel that way. So yeah, Brian, what do you think about that? And then Marathon and overall.
It's a good question. I just finished watching the Skill Up video that he put out, and he mentioned that the stuff that he played, there was no story to it, and that it's being worked on at this moment in time, which is slightly concerning, because then it's, how many months until launch? So can they really put a good story together in that much time? I don't know. Again, I don't know how far along they have done. Yeah, so 5 months you said?
Yeah, September 23rd is dropping.
Yeah, so again, I don't know how much has been done until now, so I don't know. Like, is 5 months enough to have okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they have a good outline and they're just trying to flush some stuff out, get some nuances done. Fine, so maybe they'll have a good story by that point in time, but at this point, as far as I've heard, there's nothing in place, and I've not heard anyone talk about it, which is concerning.
I mean, just real quick to that point, I mean, with any new game, they're probably going to do the whole, part of the experience is going to be coming out at launch, but, in the next couple of months, we're going to get a DLC, free DLC. And that's, that's how games work these days.
I don't know. It just seems like it's just not enough, And one of the complaints that I heard is that Marathon is going to cost money, whereas the competitors are all free to play, and that's why people were wanting it to be free to play. So on that aspect, that also is quite concerning, because if all the competitors are just like, hey, you know what, we're free, and yet this one you have to pay for, I assume that the fan base will just look at it and say, why am I going to pay for this game when everything else that are the alternatives are free? Which is, again, a very good question, to which I have no answer. I've not heard anyone say otherwise to it. So again, I honestly I'm just sat here just thinking, I just don't know if this is enough of what they're doing. I heard that there'll be 6 characters at launch to play with. And
Yeah.
again, I don't know how much the base is, but even just sounding that or just hearing that 6, I don't think 6 is enough. Maybe they come up with 10. That might be like enough to keep people going, because if they do have an update, then that update has to be quite fast post launched. Because again, we had people that played Monster Hunter World for like 100 hours within 2 weeks and said that there's not enough content. And that's Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, that has a decent amount of content. So with this and 6 characters and the 3 maps, it's just seeming like it's maybe not going to be enough to hold people in for long enough. And that's my concern. And I can definitely see that happening regardless of everything else, whether it's Bungie, whether it's cross-platform. That I just don't think it'll have enough content to hold people, and that's my big concern.
Yeah,
I have a question for you guys.
What's up?
With the announcement, like we mentioned, 5 months prior to the conclusive date that they put on us, is there any potential for this being delayed?
I don't know.
Because it feels like it's pretty conclusive, right? Like, it's like,
yeah, it does.
getting a date this far along.
I don't think it will be delayed. I do think it can be overshadowed by other stuff coming out around that same time or shortly thereafter, because we already know there will be another Call of Duty game, and there obviously is going to be a Battlefield game coming out. Whether or not that gets delayed is to be determined, but Call of Duty is not getting delayed. So that's if people are looking for shooters, they're going to have a couple of different options to basically go after aside from this. But one thing I did want to say, because Brian made a comment and he was asking a particular question about why, because the people that are saying it should be free. Well, Sony needs to get a return on their investment. This is why this game has a price tag attached to it, because it's going to be on Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. So they're going to make sure they're getting some type of money from people who are investing in it. So I think that's the reason why. But we'll see.
Yeah. Now, Carlos, I don't know if you meant for your question to be about this, but are you asking that because of Grand Theft Auto 6?
Well, no, I just feel like, partly because GTA 6 is gonna, if GTA 6 comes out this year, it's gonna be in November. I feel, because that's when my vacation's slated.
Fair enough.
Know that. Then Call of Duty is the only other one that is around that time, and also I guess Battlefield. But I mean, I don't know if anybody will ever move for Battlefield at this point. So with all the content stuff that Brian mentioned, that they're still, they only got a certain amount of characters, a certain amount of maps. They don't have the story fully fleshed out yet. It's like, well, doesn't it just make sense to, delay this? If you're going to be, if you're 5 months off and you're not completely finished with the main content, if you're going to charge for this game, like going back to the point where people are complaining about the price or charging at all, it's like, well, yeah, if the game came out like they're explaining it just as is without the story, then it makes sense to make it free to play. But if you're gonna charge a penny for it, then it makes sense to have, most of the whatever vision you have of this game to be fully fleshed out. And if you're gonna have competitors, a month away, like let's say Call of Duty comes out October or September or August or whatever month within that time frame, it doesn't really make sense to release this type of game, because it's going to be in direct competition to them. It just doesn't make sense. And and GTA and the GTA the Void is going to be incoming pretty soon after that. So it's one of those things where it feels like it might not make sense to release it when they're saying they're going to release it.
When did Destiny come out? Like, Because whenever,
Wasn't-
yeah, like it was that in the spring or so,
I thought that was
September.
also
or was that
September. Yeah,
September? Also September. So maybe Bungie's like, hey, this is when we always release games. Because to your point, Carlos, like maybe they release it in spring, maybe they'd have a better shot. But I mean, look at Destiny, right? That release and when that game dropped, that was the biggest fucking thing, you know. And also, obviously, we had a Call of Duty that year because there's always a Call of Duty every year, you know.
Yeah.
And also
That's a good
maybe,
point.
yeah, go ahead.
That's a good point. I mean, the only thing to the contrary of that is Destiny. It looks like Destiny had a way bigger budget than this. I mean, $500 million according to them, and that one had a story, even though Peter Dinklage didn't give a damn.
Okay.
It just seemed like Destiny, and it was the first game after Halo, so
Yeah, it had
there
that
was a lot more
juice.
momentum.
Yeah.
A lot more momentum for that than Marathon. But still a good point because I mean, releasing against Call of Duty is still a big thing.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, we'll see how this game does. But yeah,
Just-
go ahead,
to
Brian.
add-
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I've just been doing some reading now, and people are saying that this game will have microtransactions. Now,
Of course
I've
it
not
will.
seen a confirmation of that by any official source. And by official source, I mean either Sony or Bungie. Just that people are saying that there was a live stream and it was said that it'll have microtransactions and a battle pass and season 2 content. So the fact that that even exists is kind of funny. It's like, so you have all this in place, but yet there's no story. It's like, like, where's the game to attach all this like cost to? Like, you don't have the game to attach this content onto, but yet you're already thinking about monetizations. Like, that's concerning. But again, maybe that's how these things are built. So I have no idea. So yeah, it's just, to me, I find that very concerning. You know, I always thought that the monetization comes after the product, but
No, not anymore.
have it backwards.
Monetization now comes before the product. It's crazy. All right, man. Good stuff there. Next, we got a question from Mr. J. Shep. Kind of related. When you're making a live service game these days, it seems like PvE is a better choice and seems to be more successful. Is there some type of incentive for developers to make PvP games versus PvP only games? I don't know if that's necessarily true, that PvE is more popular than PvP. Like Fortnite, its biggest mode is PvP. Overwatch was PvP. Like I think Marvel Rivals is also PvP. Now I'm not saying PvE isn't big. It is, but I mean it seems to me like PvP is bigger. Call of Duty, fucking, you know, CS:GO, League of Legends, they're all PvP, you know, the biggest games. So I don't know if that's exactly correct. I could be wrong about that, but you know, from my assessment, I don't think it is. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, there's big franchises for both. I mean, you have Dota and all those types of games that are PvE. Well, not Dota, Warcraft.
Yeah.
That's PvE and stuff like that. But yeah, the PvP is still pretty big. I don't think there's anything against that. You know, Call of Duty has zombies and stuff like that. But I just don't feel like PvP is something that's to go away from. I mean, you can do a PvE and still be pretty big game. Isn't Helldivers 2 PvE? I don't remember. I haven't played it.
Never played it.
Yes,
So,
it is.
yeah. So
Yep, PvE.
Brian, what do you think? Is PvP bigger than PvE or vice versa?
I definitely think that PvP is bigger. Just again, Steam charts and Counter Strike
Yeah.
Global Offensive, I think it is always top. So
Yeah.
it's and as Tony has mentioned, Fortnite, it's PvP. Well, Fortnite became Fortnite because of the PvP.
Yep.
You know, so I think that's definitely the case. But I think that PvE is just a safer bet, purely because you're not reliant on a community being there. So, for example, with Monster Hunter, it'll always be that. Granted, you can have co-op, which is fine, but you're not reliant on other people existing to make the game what it is. I mean, if you were the last person playing Monster Hunter Wilds, you can still play with AI. That works. If you're the last person playing CS:GO, you can play with bots, but that's not where the heart and soul is. Like you can't be the last person playing Fortnite by yourself. So, yeah, I think people just are maybe leaning more towards the PvE side these days, just because they think it's safer than PvP. Because I've actually not heard of many PvP games coming out recently, unless I've just not been following the news.
Yeah, I'm not sure. What's up, Assyrian Air Force? But yeah, I think PvP is more popular. All right.
PvP.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
PvP is probably the most complicated to make good, I would think, because there's just so many factors in that dynamic between how to play against each other. While PvE, it seems like it's a lot more curated by the developer.
Yeah.
Sort of, they get to dictate a lot more how certain events go. So I feel like it'd be much more of a curated experience of a PvE instead of a PvP. But like Brian mentioned, PvP is still king. I mean, the Steam charts show it. Fortnite is still huge, even though it's got a whole bunch of other game types there now. As opposed to
they
when
have
it came out.
they have other modes, but that's why I was very specific in saying its main mode. And as Brian said, the mode that made it Fortnite is the PvP. The whole objective is you got to be the last guy, got to kill everybody. Yeah. So, Rich, what are your thoughts?
I personally like PvP more. Obviously, Marvel Rivals, that game is PvP, and you see how successful that game has been post all the controversy that happened with the studio. Yeah, that game is still played by a lot of people, and that is free to play. So I do understand, PvE versus PvP. I mean, I think that PvP is still a very good way to play a game. Yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Dirty Death Dealer? All right. Another question. One subset. Based on what we've seen so far, the Nintendo Switch 2 delivers impressive graphics for a handheld. Does this justify the $450 asking price? Now, one subset asked us a bunch of questions about the Switch 2 and handhelds, and I don't want to make any assumptions here, but it seems like a lot of his questions seem to kind of dismiss the fact that other handhelds exist. Like he's kind of talking about the Switch as this kind of revolutionary thing when it's not anymore. So to answer, because he asked us 3 questions here. No, I don't like. Here's the thing. I don't think the Switch 2's price is justified necessarily. But I also don't think they're charging too much extra. I think $400 is what they should have been charging for this thing for what you get. But maybe you're paying extra for the Nintendo tax. For the Nintendo games, because like you could buy like a Steam Deck for like $400, one version of it, right? And graphics wise, that's about on par with the PS4, maybe PS4 Pro. So is the Switch. So again, it's not doing anything revolutionary. There are other handhelds that are more expensive, obviously. So you could be like, hey, the Switch 2 is a better value than an ROG Ally for $700. Sure, but it's not, in my opinion, I think it is overcharged, but just by $50. I think this thing should have been $400, just like a 250 gig Steam Deck, So no, in my opinion, I don't think the price is justified. What about the rest of you guys?
We have to get to the point where we get the console with us and the games have to be there. I
Yeah.
think that's the only way to justify it.
Yeah, I think I should. Thank you, Carlos. Put a caveat on that. Based on what I've seen, I don't think it's justified. I'll put that caveat on there because you're right. We actually have to get it in and actually test it. You're right about that.
Yeah, because I mean, it could be a mess. Like it could be for example, like a red ring situation could happen. We don't know those factors can occur.
Yeah.
And also with the games, Mario Kart could be the best game ever for all we know. Metroid 4 could be one of the best exclusives to come out. Like we live in a moment where it's harder to tell things because games sparsely release from the people we used to play games for. Where it's like, hey, if you release Mario Kart, the new Mario Kart Worlds, and Metroid, and what's it called, Donkey Kong Bonanza, in 1 year, I mean that's more than what the competitors do in the entire year. So that would probably justify it for me if they were good games. As far as the tech, it's just on the tech alone. It's never going to be justified just because, like Tony mentioned, the Nintendo tax. They don't do anything cutting edge. I mean, even with the thumbsticks, they don't have the, what do you call those? The things on the thumbsticks
Hall effect.
Yeah, they don't even have the Hall effect when it's slowly becoming the standard. And we know that the Switch had so many issues. The original Switch has so many issues with stick drift. But I mean, there were some good things. The 120 frames per second a refresh rate on the screen is something that I wasn't expecting. I'm glad it's 1080p. I'm glad it's a bigger screen. I'm glad the Joy-Cons are bigger, even though I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna like how they're gonna feel. So all those things are good. I mean, no OLED. So I mean, if it had an OLED, if on my Switch too, if it had an OLED on my Switch too, excuse me, it would have changed.
Yeah, I agree. The price would have been more justified, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been more justified from a tech perspective before I actually get the thing hands on. But yeah, I mean, because like Tony mentioned, there's a lot of competitors now that have been releasing their own handhelds that have really good tech specs. So the Switch has got its competition, unlike how it did when it originally released in 2017.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brian, what do you think? You think the price is justified based on what you've seen?
It's a tough one because again, I've not seen that much of the Switch 2. I did see that footage of the Discord thing and the game sharing, and it's like, wow, that's sort of the slideshow. Nice.
Yeah. By the way, they officially said yes, that is what it looks like, and they said they claimed that's the case because they want to make the game. They want to make sure the game runs well. So they, that the Discord stuff on the bottom had to take a hit. Nintendo confirmed that.
Okay. Okay, fine. I'm just going to ignore that, I guess. Again, I'm with the same thought as Carlos here. I like the issue is that the market has just exploded since the Switch came out. So there's so many other competitors. And as Tony said, granted, they are more expensive. So there's always going to be that factor. And as Tony has seen, like these guys can iterate almost like twice per year on some products.
Yeah.
So it is possible that a year from now, things will just be so different tech-wise that, yeah, the Switch 2 will probably be outdated. So that's an aspect. But then, again, the cost-wise will also be something else. Yeah. Again, I'm just in full agreement with Tony and Carlos here. Like, if they had an OLED, then I guess that would be very justified. But without, it's kind of like, what else are you bringing to the table, guys? And they're not bringing anything else, really.
Yeah. What do you?
Because it's like what 256 gigabytes of storage.
I believe so. Yeah.
Which seems great because compared to the 32 gigs from the Switch.
Did you know?
But when I don't know when we get Metroid's 4K texture pack Who knows how much of that it'll take from the memory.
Yeah. Rich, what are your thoughts?
So I do agree that spending some hands-on time and getting a chance to play some games, that would determine, I think, what a lot of people do feel about this game. But to answer the question from my perspective, no, the price is not justified right now because what I saw, I wasn't impressed. Now, obviously, Mario Kart, that's great. I understand a lot of people are Mario fans. Listen, man, I'm an old man now, so I'm not really, don't care too much about Mario. Okay, Metroid Prime 4, great game. I would play that. That would be the only game that I would play on Nintendo Switch 2 if I was to get a Switch 2, because I recall saying on this very show, I would get that game if it was exclusive to Switch 2. It is not, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, that changes my opinion. But one thing I will say, like you guys mentioned, there are a lot of competitors, but I don't know, guys. There is this other competitor, a little small independent company that makes this thing called the Steam Deck. I kind of feel like that there's a way more extensive library on that device than it is on the Switch 2 right now. And I don't think anybody can argue that because we haven't seen all the stuff that is going to be on Switch 2 yet. But it's going to take Switch 2 a while to have a lot of games coming to that platform. So for now, I would say hell no, it's not justified, but Steam Deck 1000% justified purchase, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. All right, we got a quick question here. Oh, what's up? Go ahead.
I got a question for Rich.
Uh-oh.
So Rich, you're not at all interested on the Switch 2, right? Like you're not gonna get it for sure.
Well, I did say right now I'm not sold. I will say that I am going to be at PAX East. If it is playable there and I do have a good experience, then maybe I might consider it. But for right now, I would say no, because I can't think of one game I would play on that system outside of Metroid Prime 2. I'm going to say 4. Yeah.
Yo, man, you're not hyped for Donkey Kong Bonanza?
I will agree with Tony. The game looks cool, but nah, son, no. I need some grown man gaming.
Get that trash out of here.
Grown man gaming. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny. All right, quick one from Dirty Death Dealer, who just asked us in the chat right now. Will the Nintendo greedy shenanigans and this whole Ubisoft stance on that, you not owning your own digital games put a sour taste in gamers' mouths, and could it potentially hurt the industry as a whole? I mean, this is something Chris talked about. Well, I'll get to the Ubisoft part in a bit. That's their weekly L that we didn't get to. He thinks that if Nintendo is now going to be charging $80 per game, that other companies will start doing it, and that could potentially precipitate a real gaming crash, which would be ironic because Nintendo was the company that saved the industry from a gaming crash, and they could potentially destroy it. I don't know if that's going to happen necessarily, but it is interesting to think about that. But here's the thing about with the whole Ubisoft statement. Like, I find it interesting that people are getting up in arms about it. It's like, how do you not know that? It's already been known that you don't own your digital games, right? Like, I think it's one of those cases where people just need to be flat out told the thing until they believe it. But that's something we've been talking about in this show forever. You don't own this shit. You don't own any of it, So I find that kind of interesting, but it goes to show that unless you tell people, it's with the whole Xbox third party thing. Until Phil Spencer flat out says we are now a third party company, no one's going to believe it, even though all their actions say they're a third party company, right? Like, people need to be told this shit up front. So I guess that's what it is. But again, us, we're fucking gaming nerds. Like, we've been telling you guys this shit. We've been telling you don't own these games. They can just pull it doesn't matter if you bought them, bro. Like, unless you store it in a hard drive somewhere, they could literally just flip a switch and you can't even play the shit you fucking bought, So, and we've seen instances of that already. So, again, I'm slightly surprised it's a big deal, but I'm also not surprised, Will that hurt the industry? Who knows? Because again, this has been happening for like 10 fucking years. This isn't a new thing. It's like finding out, it's like, okay, just because you know about it doesn't change the situation. It's still the same thing, So yeah, that's my take on that. What do you guys think?
I feel like the taste in the mouth that Nintendo and Ubisoft will leave probably be worse than the taste that the Switch cartridges will leave. It's it's the whole thing with the way they're doing their game prices with Nintendo. It's like we've already the what do you call it? The Pandora's box has been opened before that with Sony and EA to an extent. That happened then, and it's that it was open. The floodgates are open. Nintendo is now doing this. Rockstar will likely, and we've seen reports, they're thinking about $190 to $100 price tag on GTA 6. Which, spoiler alert, this game is not going to cost less than $80. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like I'm pretty sure it's going to be more than $80.
Every day that happens, I believe more and more that the game will cost more than $80. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the industry just follows those trends. So I don't know if I can blame it solely on Nintendo, but obviously they are partially to blame because they're doing this thing with which is, and they're kind of doing a dynamic pricing. Like we've seen $80 for Mario Kart, and then it was like less for the Donkey Kong game because it's on or the Metro game because it's on both consoles. So it's weird. And and the whole thing with the digital games. I mean, I remember, and I played this game when it came out, the remake for Resident Evil 2. Great remake and everything.
Yeah.
But I remember my internet went out one day. And I couldn't play the rest of the game.
Yeah, and this was a single player game. This was a single player game.
It's a single player game. It's a remake of a freaking old ass game. So, yeah, that's just the world we live in, not only with the DRMs to play single player games, but owning digital games pulled out and anytime. It's just the new paradigm we live in. You don't own your games anymore. The only way you own your games is if you go the way of the Jack Sparrows.
Yep.
And that's about it.
Yeah. All right, Brian, what are your thoughts, bro?
Exactly what Carlos said. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Carlos said exactly what I was gonna say.
And the only way that can be taken away is an EMP, and that's it.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, Rich, what about you? You think all these shenanigans are going to destroy the industry or really hurt it?
Well, with the Ubisoft thing, we already know we don't own our games. So the main question for Ubisoft is, will they still be around in the next couple of years? Maybe they will be renamed. Will be under a different name. I have no idea, but we'll have to wait and see. As for the Nintendo comment, I will say this. Obviously, a lot of people were very angry when they heard the pricing, but I do want to revisit this in June and see just how many people are still going to buy this system, because I feel like even though they complained a lot about this stuff, there's going to still be a handful or more that buy it anyway because it's something new and they're Nintendo fans, so on and so forth. But I will say this about the Nintendo suggesting that games should be more expensive. Grand Theft Auto is a game that it would make sense for that game to be more expensive because how much they're going to put into that game. That Gollum game that came out a couple of years ago, complete garbage, and a perfect example of a game that should not be $80. So I still think that every game will not be going up in price, but there are some, I think, such as GTA, it would make sense for it to be cost a little bit more, but we'll wait and see. But I will laugh when I see a studio, knowing that their game is not as good, release that game at $80, and I want to see exactly what the response will be from the public when they see that happen. Because there are going to be some people that will try this. So
Yeah, that's right. We talked about. Thank you, Assyrian Air Force. We talked about this a few months ago, where Steam now has a thing that says these games are licensed. You don't own them. You know, people are very upset about that too. When it's like, guys, are you not paying attention? You know, and yeah, Mario Kart 8 is still $60 today. Crazy, bro. Nintendo,
They don't
man,
budge on the price.
they really
Prices,
don't.
man. That's
Yo, Carlos, it's gonna be
one of the
$80
things.
games lifetime, man. They're not changing. They're not budging. You know.
Well, I'm not. It's gonna be. I mean, Mario Kart Worlds is gonna come out $80, you know, on the Switch too, and then when the Switch 3 comes out, that, you know they're gonna put that shit on there too.
For
It's
real.
still gonna be 80 plus bucks.
Crazy. All right, man. Another one from Mr. Black Metal Gamer. What are your Switch 2 lifetime sales predictions? I think it'll be middle tier in sales like the N64 with 50 to 80 million units sold. Now, I'll make this a disclaimer now. I was horrifically wrong about Switch 1 sales predictions, so I'm not touching this one. I'm not touching this one. I'll let you guys have at it. No predictions from me, sir.
I would like to see what Richard says, since he is the industry senior in this room.
Let me start by saying that lifetime comment is that is a very challenging word to put in this question, because you're talking about something that is going to be around for the next couple of years or more. So it's hard to give a definitive answer on that. Obviously, it depends on what Nintendo's long-term plans are for this system. But if I had to make a guess, I'm not going to say 80 million. I'll say maybe 50 million. Maybe is where it's going to go at. And that's, again, let's put an asterisk next to that, because I don't want somebody coming back later. Yeah, you made this prediction. How the hell am I supposed to know that? That's a long time. Lifetime.
Oh,
That's
come on.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years. Yeah. So, but I say 50 million is my guess.
All right. Brian?
It's a tough one because I honestly didn't even see the Switch 1 getting that close to the PS2 in any way, shape, or form. Like, I thought maybe it'd reach 100 as a stretch goal, but the fact that it's doing 140, it's like, wow, that's a lot of Switches. So with Switch 2, I'm just gonna go with my first answer, which is 65 million.
So half.
The only reason because dinosaurs.
Wait, I think that went over my head.
65 million years ago.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So,
Fair
in other
enough.
words, I have no idea. So I'm picking a number that sounds nice, and that's it. And
Yeah.
The first number that comes to my head is 65 million years ago. So 65 million.
All right, fair enough. I like that rationale. By the way, for you guys who don't know, my original lifetime prediction sales for the Switch 1 was 4 million, and it would have been discontinued 6 months after launch. I thought it was going to be a flop, and a monumental flop. And I think I was obviously wrong, but I think my rationale for it was not off, because I was like, based off the handheld market at that time and this Wii U, I'm like, this shit is cooked, you know? I was fucking dead ass wrong, bro. So this is why I'm not making any fucking predictions. And I'm pretty sure Chris won't either, because he was just as wrong as I was. We both agreed, like, yeah, 4 million, like 6 months to a year, this shit's done, you know?
I got a prediction.
Uh-oh.
All right, put this in the Louvre.
Yeah. Wait. Are we going to go into the room? The accountability room?
I need an accountability buddy.
Yeah.
It's not gonna do as good as the Switch one. I feel like anyone in the right mind
I agree with that.
would have to agree with that, because it's only you can only be the best selling console of all time, because it's gonna surpass the PS2. Believe me, it's gonna surpass the PS2. Like I mentioned, fellas, What was the Switch 1 discontinued? Is it going to be discontinued as soon as the Switch 2 comes out? I don't think so, because they even said if you don't have money for the Switch 2, get the Switch 1.
Don Matrick.
And they did the Don Matrick.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And at this price, people are mad. They could be like, fuck it, I'm buying a Switch 1. So yeah, it could. Because again, my original prediction that it wouldn't beat it was predicated on the fact that the Switch would be discontinued in June. It won't be, obviously,
And also, we don't believe in generations. The Metroid's going to come out in this console, and I think Donkey Kong is also going to be on this, if I recall. It was another game. Anyways, so games are still going to come out. So the Switch 1 is going to be the best-selling console of all time. It's going to pass the PS2 probably by the end of the year, or maybe early next year.
It could, yeah.
But going back to Switch 2 predictions, it's not going to do Switch 1 numbers, but it is going to cross the 100 million console threshold. I feel like it's going to do 110.
Oh, shit. But that in the accountability room.
The tea leaves were like slapping you in the face.
It's still like we mentioned previously when we were talking about the ROG Ally, Steam Deck, and all those Lenovo. The handheld market is still young.
Yep.
And Nintendo is the king of this market. There's going to be a lot more competition with whenever the ROG Ally the new ROG Ally comes out, the new Steam Deck comes out, which I don't think is going to be this year. It might not even be next year, but we'll see. Like Tony mentioned when he told us it's gonna take some time for the next Steam Deck to come out. So that leaves Nintendo as the biggest game in town with not as much competition as we think. Steam Deck is still there, but I don't know how much more. No pun intended. How much more steam the deck can carry through for the next year or two, without any new iterations. So Nintendo is still going to be successful. They have a lot of things where they got Mario Kart, which is going to be successful. They got Donkey Kong, which is going to be successful, and now they're just going to wait. They're going to wait for their big hitters, and they're going to release one each year. Oh, you want a Pokemon game? Here's the Pokemon game. Oh, you want a Smash game? Here's a Smash game. You want the Mario game? Here's a Mario game. Like they got something for each year. Animal Crossing. Like they have so many first party IPs that are gonna hit, and it's hard for them not to fail. And Wii U is a clear example of how it fails. I feel like mostly because the marketing for it was terrible. People did not know what it was. With the Switch 2, even though it's more expensive, people know what it is.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
You know what it is.
It's a Switch Pro, essentially. It's just it's a Switch, but better. And that's how it's going to be marketed, even with the price, even the way it's all black. They don't have the color ones. And wait, when in a couple of months they're going to release the Mario edition of it or the Zelda edition of it, and people are going to get that, or the Pokemon edition. So that's where they make all their sales and stuff as well, where they boost their sales with the little bundles that people always gravitate to. So yeah, 110 million.
Yeah. All right. Oh, by the way, real quick question here from Assyrian Air Force who's joining us in the chat. When do you think NVIDIA will stop producing Tegra chips for Switch 1? Probably when Nintendo stops, when they discontinue the Switch. Because he said that that the Switch will only exist as long as NVIDIA keeps making chips. No, it'll exist as long as Nintendo is paying NVIDIA money to make that chip. They have a very lucrative deal with them. So I don't think they're going to be like, fuck it, we're not making this chip anymore.
Also, it really depends on what else uses Tegra. And it might not just be the Switch.
That's a good point, yeah.
What's it called? Adam's set-top box. I forget, what do you call it? The Shield. The NVIDIA Shield, that uses a Tegra. So there's a lot of stuff that uses Tegra, some stuff that we probably don't even know about that uses
That's
it.
a good point.
So there's still probably a lot of things that use it other than Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. But again, Nvidia's the songs that monies keep coming, they're more than happy to take it from Nintendo, and produce those chips. By the way, a little bit off of an aside, but this is still relevant to the conversation. So I just saw this comment on Twitter by a user. He goes, I recently realized I no longer own Minecraft because I didn't merge my Mojang account to my Microsoft account. I bought it 15 years ago and they unpurchased it from me. I don't understand how this kind of thing is even legal. Read the fine print. Pretty sure there's some shit in there that told you, hey, this may happen, This is the way it is, baby. And then he goes, the gaming industry is increasingly moving to a future where you no longer own the games you buy. Increasingly, we've been there, bro. We've been there for like 10 years now, at least for consoles and shit. We've been there, man. It's just, you just didn't think about it because no one flat out told you, It's crazy, man.
We've been ringing the sirens for a while now.
For a long time, we've been saying this. We've been saying this forever. Motherfuckers didn't listen, All right. Got another one from Mr. Subset. Will there be controversy if the Asus Xbox handheld is graphically and priced similarly to the Switch 2? So I kind of don't understand the question too much. I think that the controversy will be if it doesn't live up to the current. Again, I don't think he is taking into account that there's other handhelds out there. I think the controversy will be, hey, this shit isn't as good as the ROG Ally Asus you put out. I think that'll be it. Again, you shouldn't be comparing like other handhelds. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I want to ask him in chat. I'm like, hey, do you know about the Asus ROG Ally? Do you know about the Lenovo Legion Go? Do you know about do you know about these other systems? Because they're the standard. It's not the Switch 2, As a matter of fact, that's his actual next question here. Did Nintendo raise the bar for Xbox and PlayStation handhelds? No, the bar has been raised by the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, the Lenovo Legion Go. Like the Switch 2 is not doing anything special. You can't even be like, oh, it has detachable things. The fucking Lenovo Legion Go does as well, bro. So very, very strange question. And again, I'm not trying to knock you or anything, but I'm confused. Like the question would make sense if there were the Switch 1 dropped and no other handhelds came out until the Switch 2. Then these questions will make sense. But there's a market for these things now. I don't know. Very strange.
There might be still there's probably still a huge part of the population that's not aware of these. Huge part of the population is not aware of these handhelds, and Switch is like the only game in town.
But so I'm sorry, I gotta say this, Carlos. One subset, you listen to Throwdown, don't you? Do you know that guy Adam? Hugo? Like, come on, bro. I'm sorry, I had to get that out there. Go ahead.
So for the part where the Xbox caused any controversy, I actually understand the question, because if let's say Xbox releases their handheld with Asus and it's not up to par to even the Switch 2, then a lot of people would go crazy. Be like, oh, you're releasing a handheld, it's not even 1080p like the Switch 2 is, or something like that. Or I don't know. Maybe it's just it's just streaming only, like the PS Portal or something like that. Then I would understand there would be controversy.
But wouldn't people say, why isn't this living up to the ROG Ally? Wouldn't they say that instead?
No, because most people don't know what an ROG Ally is.
That doesn't make any sense to me. But I guess if you're completely
little Timmy, does little Timmy know what an ROG Ally is? More than likely, probably not.
Probably not. But again, because I'm trying to conceptualize this, so someone could look at this ROG Ally or this ROG Xbox, and they won't compare it to the Ally that exists. They compare it to the Switch.
Right. It's like I can't. It's when like with a normie, when they listen to a metal song,
Yeah.
any type of metal, they'll compare it to Metallica.
Yeah,
They won't compare.
unfortunately.
They won't know what Blind Guardian is. They won't know what Iced Earth is or anyone else.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, "Oh, this is kind of like Metallica," and that's pretty much
The fucking the meme. Is this Metallica? You know, the fucking. Yeah, I guess it's just weird to me, especially if you listen just for one subset. You listen to Throwdown, right? I'm just saying, you listen to Throwdown, bro. There's like, you see that white thing back there? That's the fucking Lenovo Legion Go, bro. We're like, come on, son. Other handhelds exist. So yeah, to me, the controversy would be, whoa, this thing is lesser than the fucking ROG Ally? What the hell are you doing, Asus? You know?
And it might be lesser than the ROG Ally because the ROG Ally, well, at least the ROG Ally X is like what, $800?
Yeah, I'm just comparing it to a regular Ally, you know?
Yeah.
I'm comparing just a regular ass Ally. But, you know, I guess there'll be controversy. But to me, the controversy will be, whoa, Asus, what the fuck happened? You had a great console. Why is this lower? You know?
Yeah. I mean, if they try to lower down the price, be like, oh, let's try to make a $300
or lower.
Xbox
By the way,
handheld.
lower in terms of specs and shit. That's what I mean by lower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like for example, if Xbox Phil Spencer, Uncle Phil is like going to Asus and like, hey, we want to release a $300 handheld for branded Xbox.
Ooh.
So okay, we're gonna have to lower down the specs, and it's not gonna be ROG Ally specs. It's gonna be lower and stuff like that. Then there's the part where it's like, damn, like yeah, the Asus is releasing a handheld worse than this. It's like, maybe they'll make it the streaming box, like the Portal.
That would be
Like Sony
fucking
did.
disappointing on all
yeah.
ends. Absolutely. Yeah.
But remember when we heard the rumors about the Portal before we knew it was a Portal, it was like streaming only, and we were like, what? Streaming only? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They released a streaming only handheld console.
Although we weren't surprised in the end. You know, Sony told
Oh yeah,
him.
the Sony told me. Yeah.
Where's Vanny at? You know?
Yeah.
He's Chicago. All right. So yeah, very interesting questions, but other handhelds exist. They're the ones we're judging these things by, you know? All right, we got a sponsored question by Mr. Ramudith. He's sponsoring an extra question by Mr. J Shep. In the DMC Netflix series, Dante mentions the quote-unquote Raccoon City job. Are Devil May Cry and Resident Evil in the same universe? No, they're not. And I'll tell you why they're not, along with a little bit of a history lesson. In the world of Resident Evil, it's kind of like our world, except, you know, fucking Umbrella is just creating all these monsters and shit. And then in the world of Devil May Cry, that, like, it's like all that magical shit you see is not happening underneath regular society. That is regular society. A normal everyday citizen knows demons and angels and all these other shit exists. So they're two different takes on like our world. Obviously the Resident Evil one is like more closely aligned to ours. But there, no, demons and shit do not exist in Resident Evil, whereas in the Devil May Cry world, they do exist. I think that was just just a funny little nod, you know. But you know, within the games, with this Netflix series, who the fuck knows? Maybe they are connected, but for the games, they're not connected. But there is a fun connection that a lot of people may not know about. Devil May Cry, the first game, was originally going to be a Resident Evil game. It was conceptualized as a Resident Evil game. They wanted to take it in a different direction. So they started adding monsters and all this hack and slash stuff. And it got so far out of the scope of Resident Evil, like, let's just create a new franchise. But you could still see the bones of Resident Evil in the first Devil May Cry game, like kind of like those fixed camera angles and shit. That was supposed to be a Resident Evil game, but then, you know, they changed it so drastically, they decided to just do a different franchise. The same thing happened with Final Fight. The original Final Fight was supposed to be Street Fighter 2. Actually, to be specific, it was supposed to be Street Fighter 89, a direct sequel to Street Fighter that came out in 87. But it was so radically different, Capcom was like, yo, let's just make a new franchise. Kind of funny how Capcom does shit like that. It's like, hey, let's make a sequel to this franchise. Oh, shit, this is different. Let's make something else, you know? So, yeah, canonically, they're not in the same universe because, again, people who live in Resident Evil don't know about monsters. You know, they don't know about demons and shit. The only monsters that exist come from Umbrella, you know? But, yeah, I think it's just the show just doing a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge and shit, you know? Kind of cool. I heard people actually like that anime series, so that's good, I guess. Me, I'm not interested. I'm good. You know, I'm waiting for the rope-a-dope because I know there's going to be some fucking stupid twist like they always love to add to these cartoons now. Is anybody, by the way, real question is, if Manny was here, he'd say yes, obviously. I think Adam is too, but is anybody here right now watching this show?
No,
No.
I haven't got up to it.
Yeah. I'm guessing no from you too, Rich?
I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but I will check it out. I heard it got renewed second season already, so.
Yeah. By the way, insider tip for that, when they say stuff like that, it's like it's been renewed for season 2, they already had it in plans. You know, that's
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right about that.
Yeah, Rich, you know that, and Manny was the one that told me. I was like, yeah, that's already, but they build up hype that way. Oh, renewed for season 2, you know? It's like, no, it was already planned for 2 seasons minimum, you know? The one they caught off guard was Invincible. They're like, oh shit, this show's popular. We better make another one. You know? They were not ready for that. All right, here's a my daughter. Reggie, what's going on, man? Listen.
Listen.
He goes, his daughter's watching it. It's good. That's what's up. All right, another one from Jay Shep. Does the rate at which games are released inadvertently force gamers to consume games at an unhealthy rate? Does feeling rushed to finish game A to get to game B take away from the experience of game A? That's a good question, you know, but it's situational, right? For example, for me and Carlos, this is not the case. It's the opposite for us. We're waiting for games to come out. You know, we're starved for games. But I will say this, though. Before, and I'm going to put a little caveat. I'm talking about this before I became a game journalist, because there's a caveat there. Before I became journalist, yes, there was a point during the PS3 era, like late PS3 era, where it's like, oh, shit, this game comes out on this day, then this game comes out on this day, then this game comes out on this day. So I have to plan my schedule around, I got to finish this game at this by this date so I can play this one. So, yeah, that could be a problem if there's a lot of games to play. And in a way, it kind of does like you're not thinking, like once you beat a game, you're not like thinking more about it because you're on to the next thing already. So yeah, that could be a problem. Like it could make games feel more disposable. But you know, there isn't like a grand consortium of the gaming industry, you know, the gaming industry committee, if you will. They don't all get together like, okay, what are our release dates? Let's plan. That shit doesn't happen. Motherfuckers just drop games when they drop them. And sometimes that's why we have those, you know, and during the good days, earlier Throwdown, we will talk twice a year. We'd be like, oh, fuck, here comes the gaming flood. Here comes the gaming flood.
Gameageddon.
Remember Gameageddon? Remember we used to have those back in the day? You know? Yeah. So, yeah, so we are aware of that. But, you know, if you're like me and Carlos, that's not the experience you're having. But, yeah, it can kind of suck where you have to rush through a game in order to get to the next thing. But obviously, you know, if you're a guy like Brian, you're like, I'm playing games whenever the fuck I want, you know, so that's not a problem for him either, you know. But if you're a game journalist, game writer like me and Rich, you got a whole other problem because it's like, I got to beat these fucking deadlines and shit. So you're rushing through things. Mm-hmm. But since you're not playing games for fun, that isn't an issue. But it is like, how much time can I dedicate to this game to give it a review that's like correct, you know? So different things. So yeah, Rich, what's your take on all this?
Well, let me start by saying, and here comes Carlos. That is a phenomenal question. Let me start by saying this. Yeah, I do like the question a lot because, like you said, Tony, with the Gamergeddon stuff, it feels to me like in the fall season, every single fall, it does get very busy with the games. It may not necessarily be a game that we all enjoy every game, but if you are covering this stuff as a media outlet, it gets incredibly busy during the fall season. Unless there is a game that really gets its hooks in, that really gets its hooks into you, then it's very easy to just play a game and move on to the next one, But yeah, it is tough. Trying to complete a game, especially like, let's say, for example, you get asked to review a game such as a new Persona game, and you know damn well that's going to take at least 80 to 100 hours to finish. Yeah, and this is also coming out, and then next week we have a new Doom game dropping next week. Yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot to have to consume, so it can be it just takes up a lot of time. But yeah, like you say, we always are trying to figure out if we played enough to really give an opinion on something. 9 times out of 10, sometimes you've played and you've seen everything a game has to offer and you're able to talk about that. Other times it requires definitely playing some more time. So, yeah, it's hard for me to answer that, straight up. But I will say that one thing I will say that I noticed that I do think is a problem is that when you do have those times in the year, mainly the fall, where there's so many games dropping, there will be a game that comes out that gets a ton of attention that actually is a great game, and it gets overshadowed because there are other things that you were covering, and then you have to go back later and then you get a chance to check it out. You see, okay, now I see why this game got a lot of attention. That happens quite often. A lot of the indie titles, some of the indie titles, which are actually better than some of the mainstream titles, get overlooked a lot. Yeah, it's that, but that happens. There's nothing you can really do about that because, like you said, people just release a game when they get ready. They're not looking to see, okay, when is this publisher going to release? However, if your game is Grand Theft Auto 6, yeah, you don't have to worry about that, but everybody else is definitely worried about when you're dropping. So, yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah. And again, like the best way to do things, and Brian, I'll get your thoughts on this next. The best way to do things is just don't worry about what the hottest new game is. Just play whatever fuck you want in whatever order you want. You'll get to everything eventually, But Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
I can definitely understand where the question's coming from. Especially if there's going to be like a time of year when there's just a bunch of games that you like all drop. And again, it's the same for all of us. Like there's been games every year that we just didn't get around to playing. I mean, I still want to get around and play what's that Dark Souls with guns game
that came out recently?
It came out like 2 years ago, September.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm forgetting.
It was something 2. It was like something from the Ashes 2. Anyway,
not Remnant, right?
Yes, Remnant 2.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to play that, but I just missed out on the time frame and just have not gone back to it. And it's just one of those cases where, yeah, you will just miss out on certain things. But at the same time, if you just do what I do, I think you'll have a much better time because there's no stress on, oh yeah, you should play this game this time, you should play that game that time. Because when you eventually get around to it, unless it's like a multiplayer game and things have died out after a few years, then you can always go back to it. I mean, I played World after Iceborne came out.
Yeah.
So that was years after it came out, and yeah, I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as much as everyone else did, and I'm playing WoW at the same time it came out, and I'm equally enjoying it. So yeah, I think once you stop trying to meet these deadlines, I guess, of when games come out, I think your life just becomes a lot easier. Because again, that's what I do, and I think I'm having a lot more fun because at this point, it's like I just go back to play whatever game I want when there's a downtime. But then when games I do want come out, then I'll be there. So you get like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I kind of skirted around it, but yeah, do what Brian does, bro. You'll be a lot healthier. Do what Brian does, man. Like to me, Brian, the way you do it is the way it should be done, you know? But yeah, so just do that. Copy Brian. All right. All right, another one. Actually, this one's from Alpha Chuck. Just how tarnished is the Xbox brand? The past few months have seen them release multiple first-party games with little fanfare. Both Avowed and South of Midnight, while not Game of the Year contenders, are decent games that got very little industry buzz and player counts do not seem very good. Would these games have done better on PS5? I was going to say this because we just haven't had a chance to talk about it, because I know we promised we were going to give you a review of South of Midnight, but then a little thing called the Switch 2 dropped. You know, that game had the most unfortunate fucking release, man. You dropped, not only did you drop on the week of South of Midnight, but you also dropped on the same week as the fucking tariffs. So, like, the conversation was being eaten up by those two things. So, nobody was talking about that fucking game, you know? As for Avowed, you know, the word of mouth wasn't good after it dropped, you know? Like, you saw towns that were just empty, NPCs that weren't moving, not very compelling. So in that case, it's just not a good game, you know? South of Midnight, I can't speak on it too much because I haven't played it. I don't really have an interest in it. But I will say this, though. The Xbox tax is real. And I don't mean the Xbox tax the way the Twitter guys talk about it. I'm talking about that basically they have to do 3 or 4 times as much to gain traction as like any other company because of the bad word of mouth, and not word of mouth, the bad reputation they have brought upon themselves. You know, I was talking to J-Shub about this. Like, I think somebody made a comment of like, oh man, Xbox has been failing lately. I'm like, lately? Like, they've been failing for the last 10 years, bro. Longer than that, you know? Like, it's going to be a hard. We've talked about this on the podcast many times too. They have a lot to overcome, you know, and it isn't to their favor when they release these kind of lackluster games. So it's like, you're not getting attention anyway. Then you release these kind of half-ass games. Yeah, so I'm not surprised. But with South of Midnight specifically, horrible fucking timing, absolutely horrible on that week, you know. Yeah, Carlos, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, like, I agree with Tony. The Xbox tax definitely is there. These games need to overperform in quality in order to garner more attention. Because, you know, Avowed and South of Midnight aren't the type of games that would get that much hype anyways.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of where they would release. So yeah, I mean, yeah, the whole thing with South of Midnight, it's like whatever reviews, whatever PR it released when it came out, it was drowned by everything going around with the Switch 2 and everything else going around around in the world. So it's really unfortunate because I think it got good reviews, right? From what I saw.
South of Midnight, I know Rich gave it a good review. Yeah,
Rich, shout out to the Coalition with a K that reviewed South of Midnight. I know they got a good review from Rich, which is saying a lot, you know, because, you know, Rich is a tough critic. You know, you need to be good to get those good scores. So I'm surprised that you know, nothing, like I haven't seen anything from this game in terms of, you know, who's playing it or what's going on. But to be honest, I'm not on Twitter hardly ever, so I don't get to see that stuff as much. But, you know, just on the Discord and some just random internet browsing, I haven't seen stuff from there either. So yeah, Xbox is not doing their games any favors with, you know, how people are perceiving their brand, for sure.
Yeah, the only people I've seen talk about this game are game journalists. Like, actual regular gamers are not talking about this fucking game.
Yeah. I just it was a tough sell, man.
Yeah,
there really isn't. Is there even a niche for this type of game? Because it's not doing something that's like really
Not really.
like that's really like mainstream.
I don't even know what.
Other than
Again, Rich, you could probably give me some more insight on this, but like to me, this just seemed like another like Cana Bridge of Spirits game, like some like cute little platformer. Not doing anything special.
Well, the setting it is in the South, and when I did my review, I mentioned why I was interested in it is because I've been living in Atlanta for the last 19 years. So I wanted to see how A-Town. I wanted to see how they were going to capture that. But I do have a few things to say about this question because once again, another phenomenal question. So shout outs to Alpha Chuck.
Yes.
First and foremost, Xbox, let's just address the elephant in the room. You guys have been saying here on this show, we all know Xbox is going to go third party. This is a slow transition to this stage. And when Phil Spencer finally announced it, everybody will be like, we've been told you guys this is going to happen. So it's not really a surprise. But in the case of these two games, what you guys said about the Switch news, that is true. But there is another very true, very controversial point to all of this that I do want to mention. Now, I'm not going to mention this without getting into specifics, but you will know. There is a particular sweet company that was said a long time ago that they were involved in these games, and it is what it is, right? But the thing is that I have noticed that some people who work at these companies have been releasing statements recently talking badly about gamers.
Oh, of course. Yeah. That always wins, doesn't it?
Of course. So when you talk about this type of stuff, it's going to change the perception of your title. You're going to have people making videos going after the title, the game, saying it's garbage. And the thing about South of Midnight is that the game isn't a bad game. The combat is very underwhelming and repetitive.
Uh-oh.
That is probably my biggest complaints about the game, and I said that in my review. But the game itself, the concept, I could see what they were doing, and I think it was good to try something different. But when you have people coming out with these statements about going after the gamers and them not liking certain stuff, that does not do you any favors when you're trying to sell this game to an audience. So those people, because there are some people also at the studio that made this game that have also said stuff about gamers, those people should not be saying anything. If they are trying to release a game, just stay quiet. Don't say anything. But again, they put themselves in a bad situation. So, but in the case of those two games, they're definitely going to be hard sells. They're for particular audiences. I believe Avowed came out at a time where there was another big title out, because this was out in February. There was a couple other titles that came out in February that people were more interested in. So therefore, it was like, whatever. We don't care about this game. This game, it came out at a time when there was other stuff happening with the Switch too. I understand that, but this is what I will say in regards to the comment about Xbox. We can agree that Xbox, yes, they're headed in a third-party direction, but I will say this. There's no doubt in my mind that Xbox Game Pass, at least Microsoft is doing something right with that right now, because even though South of Midnight, you can say that South of Midnight and Avowed, they aren't really that great titles. They have a game that just came out called Blueprints, right? And I made a comment to you guys about this game. This is an indie title. This is going to be the indie darling. This game is currently the highest rated game of the year. So it's going to get a lot of game award. I know it's going to get nominated for Game of the Year. It's higher than Split Fiction. This game is on Xbox, but it's also on every other platform. You have Claire Obscure Expedition 33. This is coming to Game Pass in 2 weeks. Another game people are looking forward to. You have Doom. That's also coming to Game Pass next month. So I will say this. Microsoft hasn't figured things out. They're definitely going third party. But for right now, if you are a Game Pass subscriber, there are some games you are going to want to play that are coming to Game Pass. So I can't really fault them for Game Pass. But everything else, yes, give them all the smoke for everything else bad that they've done.
Oh, man.
No doubt about it.
Right. Brian, what are your thoughts on this, man?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Yeah. Your that question is actually perfect because it's about Xbox apathy. No, we're just saying like Xbox dropped 2 big games, Avowed and South of Midnight, and nobody gave a fuck. Like, what do you think about that? My thing is like, not only are just people just kind of lukewarm on Xbox because of their history, but South of Midnight specifically dropped on the same week that Nintendo Switch 2 was announced and the tariffs went into place.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Well, does anyone know if the games were actually good? Like South of Midnight?
Well,
Has anyone reviewed it?
Yeah,
Rich,
Rich reviewed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good but repetitive.
Okay. I was expecting too much from it. I had issues with how the art style was and how they made the intentional choice of making it look like stop motion with how choppy it was. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah, same.
That's hey. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be anything major. Just kind of like okay, this is something interesting, and that's about it.
Yeah,
So,
but yeah, basic question was like, how come Xbox can't catch a break?
I'm not too sure. I honestly have no idea. I think it's just a case of they've just gone so long with just not releasing anything of noteworthy that people have just stopped caring.
Yep, I agree with that. That's what it is. The Xbox tax. They brought it on themselves. All right, moving on here. Oh, we got a couple sponsored, because J-Shep, shout out to you, man. He gave us a lot of questions. So we got 2 sponsored questions by a very generous person named Sir Rich a lot. Shout out to you, brother.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of, yeah, but he is helping us out and sponsoring some leftover questions. The first one is, now that the Xbox Showcase, that the Xbox Showcase is for all gamers, will Microsoft ever change the name of the showcase? So, okay, I'm not sure if something happened this weekend that inspired this question, or this is what I think it is. Basically, I think the question is like, every game that you see at the Xbox Showcase will be on other consoles. I think that's the heart of it. So let's go with that explanation. So he's wondering, should they rename it to something else? No, because again, it's still the Xbox brand, So, and Microsoft still wants to show this stuff off. Again, Rich is another example of third-party, games. But yeah, what do you think? I don't think they're going to change the name of this thing.
Oh, they absolutely will not change the name because, they want people to still believe that Xbox, we're not going third-party, ladies and gentlemen. This is just, we want to make that very clear. This is still Xbox. Everything is an Xbox, right? So they can't change that name now. But yes, it is definitely going to be the show to watch so that every person who owns a PlayStation can say, you know what, I look forward to playing that game either at launch or a couple months later after it comes to Xbox.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. So I don't think they're going to change anything. But yeah, that Xbox shows moving forward, and I've said this for like last time, I'm like, it's just a showcase for everything, Because remember, you saw a bunch of dudes at the last Xbox showcase we saw, last major one, PlayStation ponies, let's just be honest here, shitting on it, like all trash-ass games. I'm like, you realize all those games are coming to PlayStation too, right? Like, don't talk shit, because those games are coming to your platform, just like Indiana Jones, for example. All right, another one. Who is anyone from the panel going to Summer Game Fest? Rich, for no reason whatsoever, I'll take it over to you.
Oh man, I was not expecting that question. Yes, I will be attending Summer Game Fest in June. Obviously, can't really talk much about it, but what I can say is I have already started hearing about certain stuff that will be happening at Summer Game Fest, so I do look forward to talking about that on the show at a later time.
Gotta have something.
There you go. Yeah. And Jay Shep, you should know Rich is gonna go, man. As usual, this happened last year. It'll probably happen again this year. I'm gonna be invited, and I'm not gonna go because my company's not gonna pay for that. You know. So we'll definitely be depending on Rich to be our man on the ground, giving us the inside scoop, just like Reggie used to. Oh man, I can't. Well, Dirty Death Dealer says I can't wait to play Marcus Phoenix on my PS5. There you go. What's gonna happen? All right, we got a couple questions here from Mr. Toon Medic, aka Michael Santiago. What would be your ultimate fighting game mashup lineup? There's a certain game called Mugen that exists. What's the roster? Anybody you could think of. You want to have Homer Simpson versus Thor? Go right ahead. You know. The thing is, like, I guess he's asking us, like, if you could have like a Jump Force type of game, what would you want in the roster? My immediate question would be like, yo, how are you gonna balance this shit with so many characters, But yeah, if you want to get, like Ryu versus Scorpion, sure, that'd be kind of fun. But then you would have to tone shit down because Mortal Kombat's the only game that kills people. Like you can't be having fucking Scorpion chopping off fucking Chun-Li's head,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Throw in a couple NRS people, some Street Fighters, some Fatal Fury, some Tekken, mix it all together and see what happens, Go ahead, Rich.
I do have a question. Maybe you can answer this, Tony, and maybe Toon as well. What the hell happened to the Tekken versus Street Fighter game?
What happened to that game was Street Fighter versus Tekken bombing. That's what happened to that game. That's what happened. They were like, no, we're not touching this shit. This is just a personal theory, but I honestly believe they were like, okay, we're still contractually obligated to do a Tekken versus Street Fighter of some type. So let's just put a Kuma in Tekken 7 and make him central to the story. I think that's how they got away with it, Because Akuma, like, they built him into the lore of Tekken. I think that's how they got away with that, so they don't have to make a game, which is disappointing because it would have been cool seeing more of those characters in 3D, The return on investment wasn't enough. Exactly, Otaku, man. No, they fucked that. The whole, please look up, Matt Muscles, he did a whole video on this called What Happened with Street Fighter versus Tekken. Hot fucking mess. That game should have been called Microtransactions the Game, It's crazy. Like that game, okay, because Rich, you probably remember this. That game was so expensive, they had to just throw all this microtransaction shit at you, but it affected the actual gameplay. They had these gems and shit. And then on top of that, the most egregious fucking thing that happened with that game, I believe it was like 3 or 5 days before the game launched, somebody figured out all the fucking DLC characters were on the fucking disc. So you were basically paying to unlock shit. And then you had other instances where like you had characters that were only for a specific platform and no one else. It was a fucking mess, So if you make a fighting game mashup, don't do it like that. Oh, the costume pack. Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, again, I could go all night about what would be the perfect characters, but we're not going to go that crazy. But if anybody else wants to jump in, go ahead.
I'll go real quick.
Yeah.
I would say Capcom doing a Jump Force in the style of Marvel vs. Capcom.
That'd be interesting.
Because I feel like Jump Force. I like the idea because it's just so many good characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like they don't do it justice the way that the mechanics are. So give it to Capcom, put their own spin on it, and I feel like they do a good job.
What? And then Carlos, what about this? Just for, extra sazon, have Arc System Works do the graphics.
Oh yeah, definitely. They've already proved it with Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Yep, and Guilty Gear. Yeah, yep. So do that. That'd be good. All right, Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just have to go back to the Tekken X Street Fighter.
I know you want that.
Game we never got. I was so excited. I was like, okay, cool. We're getting like a mashup. We're getting 2 games. They're both respective of the styles. So I was like, okay, cool. So we got Street Fighter X Tekken. So okay, cool, great. And then I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and then nothing. So that would be my ideal game.
Yeah, just release that. It'd be dope. All right, another question from Mr. Two Medic. This one's controversial. Are $80 games justified? It's a little bit of a tough one,
Depends on the game.
I was just about to say, it depends on the game.
If like I said earlier, if it's that Gollum game, absolutely not. That is complete garbage. No. Grand Theft Auto, maybe, yes. Yeah, Grand Theft Auto probably deserves that price tag.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it $80.
No, you're right about that. Like a game to me like Monster Hunter, yeah, that's worth it. But then Elden Ring, absolutely worth it. It depends on the game. I don't think it's like, but here's the annoying thing is, like, we don't have like different price games because, and I'm gonna be honest right now, I blame this, on gamers, because what happened when we used to release, $40 games, $40. That's gotta be a cheap bullshit game. I'm not buying that, And then companies were like, hey, these guys are gonna pay, they want to pay $60, charge $60 across the board, So it would have been nice if, like, instead of going like, oh, $40, this is gonna be some bullshit game. You instead went, oh shit, $40. This is great, because if you would have bought more $40 games, it would have told companies to maybe potentially lower the price. But you told them the opposite. You told them charge us more. Dudes didn't even blink when it came to $70 games. Like, okay, this is the price we pay now. Motherfuckers were actually saying that. They were like, I'm happy to pay $70 for PlayStation games. Look where we are now. Oh shit! Shout out to C. Iverson, my oldest nephew, with $5. He goes, "I love you, Unc. Love you too, brother. Good stuff, man.
Yo.
My man." But yeah, I just had to throw it out there because I was thinking about this question, and I was like, "Man, gamers, you fucked up. You should have embraced the cheaper priced games, man. But like, oh, I'm not paying for that. $40. You buying a $40 game, man? What are you, broke?" It's like that, You're a peasant. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Carlos, on that specific part?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wish game prices were more variable.
Yeah.
Even if it meant that there's going to be a lot of more expensive games, because you would know when a studio is really convinced about the quality of their product. There's obviously going to be crazy developers that are going to sell some shovelware for $80, but you'll have. Hold on one second.
Clear that throat.
Gotta clear that throat, man. My bad. There's gonna be like, let's say Rockstar releases a GTA game and they're like, it's $120. It makes things more interesting. It's like, we'll see about that. But it also, you'll have developers release games that are gonna be $30, $40, $50.
Yeah, man.
Instead of, everyone's just doing 70. And most games are not 70 or worth $70. I'm sorry. And it would be beneficial for these developers if they've released their games where they think it's going to be worth pricing, instead of just doing this standard where everyone releases $70 games now. And it's like, well, we have to do it. And I do agree there is a stigma with lesser price games means lesser quality, but maybe it's worth it for that price. It's worth it for that price, even though it's quote unquote lesser quality. It might be worth it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, Brian, what do you say?
Yeah, we definitely should have them, because it's just weird having, like, the fact that Gollum cost the same as like The Witcher 3 at launch. It's like, how is that a thing? This isn't real world. So yeah, definitely should be like bracket pricing. You know, you get like your indies for like 40, and then your AAAs for 60. It's like, yeah, that's fine, makes sense. You know, so at least then you know that for 40, it's something a little more experimental. So it's you're going out on a limb, whereas for 60, it's like, okay, this is something that's established. You know what you're getting.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts.
no, I agree. It would be nice if we have more variable prices, but sadly, it's not the way it's going to be. Rich, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree 100%. There needs to be some variable prices. Although I will say this, I did hear that had Concord released at $80, Carlos definitely would have copped it, but unfortunately,
It
he
was
did
more
not get
valuable.
yes.
Yo, is that gameplay? Is that
gameplay? Oh man, that's crazy. All right, last 4 questions of the night. Geno Breaker 26. If you could only have one console and one game to play on that console forever, what would it be and why? Yeah, I don't have a game like that, bro. Like that doesn't exist. You know? I know there's some people that just play one game forever and shit. Like Billy Mitchell and Donkey Kong and shit, but yeah, I can't be me, man. I need variety. You know, just like I need variable game prices, I need variety in my games and consoles. So I can't do it, you know? What about the rest of you guys?
If I was, I don't know if this is cheating, but, and this is a hypothetical that doesn't exist. If I was technically a Fortnite fan, then that would be an easy choice because they do a lot of updates. They change the genre. They have different game types and stuff. So that would be the type of game that I would choose, and I feel like that'd be like an easy cop out. But for a real answer, man, I'm like Tony. It's hard. I mean, you can't just do one because even the best of games, you get I get sick of them. I mean, after 400 hours of awesome nuts, I'm like, all right, that's enough.
Yeah. Rich, what about you?
Yeah, I must agree that is an impossible question to answer because obviously for you and myself, Tony, yeah, we're all having to play and review a lot of games. So it's hard to really get out of that mindset. But even before I started getting into reviewing games, like, my part of my whole thing is if I did good in school as a kid, then the reward would be that, okay, I will get the latest gaming system, so on and so forth. So you're always moving on to whatever is new. If you hear a game that's hot, you want to check it out. So it's going to be hard to commit to only one game, only one system. It's hard to do that. But that's my answer. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. What about you, Brian?
It'd be tough, really, because again, like just one game on one platform. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I can understand where Fortnite comes from because with Fortnite, at least that's ever changing. So if it's going to be like one game, there'd be something that be ever changing so that you don't get bored. Else you will just get bored. Like even Monster Hunter, like after a few hours time, I'm like, okay, I'm bored of this.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's impossible. Again, shout out to anybody who's actually able to just play one game. I'm like, I can't be me, bro. All right, another one. Will gaming as we know it on console and PC die out in the next 20 years? Will people either not play or just play on mobile? Yeah, I mean, 20 years out, who the fuck knows, bro? That's too far out. Some of us may not even be alive at that point, you know?
Whoa.
So who knows, man? I can't make that type of prediction.
Well, let me say, first and foremost, I hope everybody here is still alive.
I hope so too.
Years. I mean, that sounded very dark with that last comment there. I had to say something about that. Hopefully,
some of us are old, bro. Like I know Grant. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah. Well, go ahead, Carlos.
Real quick, Rich. I know in 20 years, there's something I will predict.
Oh,
what's that?
I'm still waiting for Deep Down.
I agree with that. That you can predict.
Still waiting.
Yeah. So, I think that the safe thing we can say, Rich, is gaming will absolutely be different in 20 years. It won't be the way it is now. It's not even the way it is now. You know, this shit is always changing. You know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I will say this. It will be different. I personally am looking forward to seeing what is going to be the game that replaces Fortnite, because I recall when we started in this industry, we saw Fortnite in the very beginning.
Yep.
I remember I had an E3 appointment to see this game. I'm like, yeah, this looks all right, but I never thought it would be as big as it is now. So I look forward to seeing what is going to be the games that actually take over for another generation. But yeah, gaming is not going anywhere, because there are plenty of people who are, younger kids now. They play all these games. Like, Adam's son plays Fortnite. This is the future generation of people that are going to possibly be making games. So gaming is not going anywhere. It definitely will change, though, with the times.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, again, the thing that really got me about this was the idea that like people were playing mobile games. It's like, I swear we had this conversation like 10 years ago, when like the whole consoles are dead, mobile's the future, and then we're still here, Yeah. So I don't know. Again, tech can change quickly, but it's been consoles for how long? And I think they'll stay for quite a bit longer. Streaming hasn't really taken off yet. Maybe in 10 years' time it'll take off more. But again, it's like a weird blockbuster type argument. It's like, streaming movies? No one wants that. And then here we are. So I can't really say that. But yeah, I still think as long as people really still want consoles, then consoles and PCs will still exist in some way, shape, and form.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like especially the PC aspect of it, I don't think that's gonna die anytime in the future. And if it's just streaming, technically that's still PC gaming, because you're just streaming off a data center that's running the game. So I don't think it's going to change as much in 20 years. In 50 years, when certainly most of us will be dead, maybe.
Yeah, and speaking about that, that's the thing. It's like right now, we still have the generation, I'm talking about guys like me, who are there pretty much at the beginning, right? It'll be very interesting to see how gaming will be when guys like me aren't around anymore. That can't tell you about the good old days where people can only just read about it or watch videos on it, because we're still kind of tethered to that past, so it'll be, like, for example, with the movie industry, we don't have anybody that was around 120 years ago to tell us about those days, like firsthand experience. But gaming, even though it's old, it's also not. And so I'm curious. I've always been curious to know what it will be like 50 years from now, when all of us are fucking dead. Not to tell people about the good old days. Very interesting.
Well, let me just add this last point. One thing we do know, within the next 20 to 50 years, while some of us might be gone, I do look forward to hearing stories about the new Throwdown show featuring Carlos's son and Adam's son talking about games. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'll be interested.
We got the emails. We got the emails. Gotta have something.
Throw it out the next generation, Oh man, I heard the TNG theme, All right, man. Last two questions of the night. Assyrian Air Force. What was the golden generation of gaming for you guys? To me, it was the PS3 360 era. Not bad. I will say the PS3 360 era was the last great console generation. It all went downhill after that because we at least still had remnants of the older generation, right? But that's also when the bullshit started seeping in, the microtransactions, the activism stuff. That's when it kind of started, but that was still a great generation. That was still a generation where I was like, oh shit, there's too many games to play. Even before becoming a journalist, there was still a lot of really good stuff. But for me, and if you've been listening to Throwdown forever, I have an answer, and it's two answers because I'm always like, damn, I don't know, bro. I always say for me, it's between the Super Nintendo generation, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Somebody cue up the Biggie song.
When I was that broke, man, I couldn't picture this.
So that one, the 16-bit era, and the PS2 era, bro. PS2, Xbox, GameCube era. Like, to me, those are like, I think I probably lean more towards the PS2 era. I mean, there's a reason the PS2 sold so much. I know the DVD player, but notwithstanding, classic fucking games. So yeah, it's always a battle between those two for me. Though that is the shit, But I also want to give a shout out to the PS1 era too, man. Even though some of those games look kind of weird now, that era, the first 3D type of games, man, there was something special about that too. And I also want to just give a shout out to my beloved Sega Saturn, I played for a good chunk of the 90s, But yeah, no, the PS2 era, I forgot about the other console, the one that predated them all, the motherfucking Dreamcast, son. Never mind, that's my answer. PS2 era, bro. The Dreamcast, excuse me?
Excuse me?
Dreamcast was the first console I bought with my own money, son. $99.99. Skipped school that day. I was going to my first year in college. I'm like, fuck that. Manny, let's go buy this fucking console we've been pre-ordering and putting layaway on and shit for months, Oh, man.
Oh, come on.
That was epic. Oh, yeah, so Dreamcast, the PS2, bro. And the PS2 was the first PlayStation console that I bought as well because I skipped the PlayStation 1 because I was a Sega guy, but after the Dreamcast died, I'm like, fuck, I had no choice, but PS2 was the shit, bro. First games I bought for that thing were Final Fantasy X and Metal Gear Solid 2 that both released that same year, brand new. And you know what else came out that year, Carlos 2001? A little game called Grand Theft Auto 3,
Yeah.
Bro, 2001 was crazy. I remember I'm watching my boy Evil Chris play the game, and I'm like, "What do you mean you can go anywhere you want?" He's like, "Anywhere." I'm like, "You go over there? Yeah. You go over there? Yeah. You can go over there. Tony, here's the controller. Go there." I'm like, "What? This doesn't make any sense."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. PS2, Dreamcast, all that. That was the shit. And I still maintain. That is the last pure era of gaming before all these fucking microtransactions and all this other DLC bullshit started seeping in. We didn't have horse armor back then. None of that. Yeah. Anyway, I'll go down the line here. Carlos, go ahead, bro, since you're already talking.
Yeah, I think y'all know which one it is for me. It's
the manga
guy.
You already know. It's the manga guy.
It's the 360 PS3 era for the simple fact that
2007
it was 2007 alone is probably the golden era. It was a culmination of everything. It was sort of an explosion of video games, of ideas, of talent, of franchises that we still know to this day. Also, it was the first generation that I felt was fully online. Well, not fully online, but online where it was good enough to play. Where especially 360, that one off the box was had everything for online. So yeah, Halo, just to throw out some games, Halo 2 or Halo 3, and Uncharted, Portal, The Last of Us,
Mass Effect,
Mass Effect, Mario Galaxy,
Assassin's Creed. It was a lot, man.
Assassin's Creed, Prototype. Shout out to Warhawk and Riku. It just had so many games, man. So many games that were great, and like I mentioned earlier, it's like the last generation where I felt like developers were still coming up with new ideas, like
absolutely.
BioShock and all that stuff. And and after that, it's like we lost most of the creatives, and it just became a business. And in the early days, it was mostly just creative. Like it was just folks, even though a lot of them were copying each other. There's a lot of folks that were just like the Doom guys that were releasing games, and like there were like nothing we've ever seen before. And when we got to the 360 era, I felt like it was fine tuned where everything just clicked, and there was so many games, and everything went downhill after that. But
It did.
But we still got those memories, man.
Yeah. Again, that wasn't my pick, but that was objectively the last great gaming era. It really went downhill after that. It really did, unfortunately. Like you said, people were still being creative, like that stopped basically the generation after that. It's just all those games we talked about. It was just, let's milk all those franchises. Fuck new franchises. We're just going to milk that shit, Anyway, Rich, what about you? What's your favorite gaming generation?
Well, I must confess that Carlos stole my answer.
Uh-oh.
So very controversial move, Carlos. I must say I'm surprised. But no, in all seriousness, Xbox 360 hands down. And PlayStation 3 for a lot of the same reasons that Carlos mentioned. But with Xbox 360, two things in particular. That was the first time I played games online, and I had the experience of playing on Xbox Live. Played a lot of NBA 2K on there. Some Call of Duty as well. And yes, this is at the time where people were saying all types of crazy stuff online, which that was an interesting experience. But the other thing about Xbox 360 is I recall that was where I played BioShock for the very first time. And I recall that actually, when I had a friend who I told about the game, they played that demo. They said within a day after playing that demo, they got a 360. So that definitely has some sentimental value. Of course, you mentioned games like The Last of Us. The other thing about that particular generation, why I enjoyed it, it was shortly thereafter when that generation started. That's when I started actually writing for the Coalition, and I joined the Coalition a couple of years after that. So no doubt about it, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, that was the era for me. Although I will give a quick honorable mention to Nintendo, because I know people have heard this podcast. They think this guy just hates Nintendo. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, when the first Nintendo came out, I had everything for Nintendo. The Power Glove, that the racing pad, for the gymnastics game, every Nintendo game that dropped, I had that stuff in the past. But again, that was a younger version of me. I am an old man now, so I'm a completely different individual now. So but no, Xbox 360 hands down, that was the one I most important, memorable for me.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to give shout out to Gears of War,
yes,
Metal Gear Solid 4,
Mass Effect,
Fallout 3, Mass Effect, Demon Souls, Red Dead Redemption,
Dark Souls came that generation as well.
Dead Space. It's so many, man.
Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden.
Dead or Alive was in its zenith back then. Also, the Warzone. Keep it real.
The Warzone.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Brian. What about you?
Oh, I have to be Brian again. I'd have to go with the PS2 era.
Nice.
Just because there was so much creativity at that point in time. I mean, I still remember EA Sports Big and all the just amazing sports titles that they had that were just so out there. I mean, FIFA Street, I played that so many times.
Need for Speed, baby.
Need for Speed, all the BMX games. It was just like there was so much stuff that was like you could really tell that this is when they were starting to try out new things, and so many franchises have not been established yet. And like, okay, let's try a game that does this. Let's try a game that does that. Like some crazy people said, hey, you know what? People like this top-down game. Let's make it 3D, and then boom, you have this little game called Grand Theft Auto 3. It's like wow. And then from there you had the Saints Row, and then you had the Getaway and the true crime game. I actually seen this.
Man, true crime. Let's go.
I actually remember, and this is how amazing it was. I actually remember that there were two games that weren't made by 50 Cent, but were related to
I
him.
remember that Blood in the Sand or whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah.
Hey, that was
yeah.
Gary's favorite game.
That's
actually.
it.
Yes.
And then I just got thinking, like, where are these games? Like, you don't get games
No.
like this now. Where it's just like some random celebrity makes a game and then it's just complete nonsense, but yeah, it's just weirdly good. It's like, where are these games? Like, they don't exist anymore. Instead we get Gollum and Dragon Age Veilguard. It's like,
Oh,
what is
God.
wrong?
I remember, just quick aside, Brian. By the way, I like how Brian and I picked the PS2 era, and then Carlos and Rich picked the PS3 era, so we're like half and half. But I remember there was one episode of X Play. They were talking about, they were complaining about how you can't move and shoot in Resident Evil 4, and Kevin Burr was like, hey, 50 could move and shoot. Talking about Blood in the Sand,
And there were two of them as well, which made
Yeah, there
it more
were.
funny. It's like, this is amazing.
Yeah, apparently the sequel came because 50 wasn't happy with the first game, so he got more involved in the second game.
Mm-hmm. If they do a remaster of that, then I'm totally buying it, because it's just like, we need more just crazy, dumb, stupid games that make no sense but just exist because why the hell not?
Brian-
That was one of those games.
Yeah, and Brian, I'll throw another one. The PS2 era was the last era when Rockstar released multiple games, and not just Grand Theft Autos. We had Midnight Club, we had Manhunt, like, bro, we had games from Rockstar back then.
Manhunt, the amount of people that were mad at Manhunt, it wasn't even funny. Like, I remember just like the news outlets here was so upset.
Yes.
It was banned in Australia for being too violent, and then I've seen like some clips, and it's like, wow, this is a really violent game, and it's just like that type of game can never be made now. Like, those are games that they're made at this time of year, and that's it. Things have changed so much that those games they can never be made. And I'm not even saying that Rockstar can't make them. I just mean in general. Like, we will never get another game like Manhunt ever.
No, instead you'll get something like No Mercy. I don't know if you heard about that game, Brian.
I've not actually.
Well, I'll tell you off air, because I think if I even mention what the game's about right now, we'll get heavily demonetized. But it's crazy. Like, this game actually makes Manhunt seem like a cakewalk in terms of and I'm like, and you released this in 2025? Yeah, but it got canceled. It got canceled because of the subject matter. Let's just say it has the main goal is, and these are realistic graphics, by the way. The main goal is to do what you want with women, even if they're related to you, if you know what I mean.
So then you can force them to play Concord with you?
Yes, yes, you could obscene acts like play Concord, exactly. But yeah, no, Manhunt was awesome, both of them. Midnight Club, bro, I played the fuck out of that. Club, there was a dub edition that was crazy. All the Grand Theft Auto was obviously. Prince of Persia games were fucking awesome on PS2. What was the name of those games? Mercenaries, that was on PS2, wasn't it? Or was that PS3?
Yes.
Yeah, that was,
PS2.
yeah. Mercenaries is fun.
I just want to interject, just because we've spent this whole time, and maybe I missed it. Maybe I fell asleep for half a second. Brian still hasn't mentioned SOCOM on all this conversation.
I don't think it needed to be mentioned, but since you brought it up, yeah, SOCOM 1, 2, and 3. Like, that was... Sorry, I just got reminded of the stupid attachment you had to buy for the PS2 to get online. That like weird thing with the Ethernet cable. And, oh my gosh, like all the weirdest Tony memory cards.
Memory, yep. That was the last time we had memory cards. Yep. I remember memory cards. Remember? You know, there was so much stuff, man. Yeah, we had the Ratchet and Clank games were at their zenith as well. Sly Cooper games, Jack and Daxter. Bro, we had games back then, man. The fuck happened?
Bit of why.
We had games, man.
I think money got involved, and as soon as money gets involved in anything, things just go really bad, really fast.
I'm going to say this. I think gaming should have stayed underground. You know, once it went mainstream, you know, things got fucked up.
I mean, and that goes to Brian's questions. Like, how did they make a 50-cent game or two of them? It's like they weren't expensive as they were now. As they are now.
Yep. Yeah.
So if they were the same, if the same sort of costs were implied, then they would never get made.
I 100% agree. Yeah. All right, man. That's gonna do it. Actually, excuse me. Whoa, there's another last question. Damn. One more question from Assyrian Air Force. With Final Fantasy VII Remake being announced for Switch 2, what does that mean for the Xbox version? Does Square Enix think it won't sell on Xbox? They probably know it won't, you know?
Yeah.
They probably know it won't. That's kind of a slap in the face, isn't it? Xbox doesn't get this is Remake, not Rebirth. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Does it come on Xbox? Or did it come to Xbox eventually? I don't remember. It came to PC. But Nintendo Switch 2 gets it from the jump. That's hilarious because they know dudes aren't they're gonna play that motherfucking Final Fantasy. They know they're gonna play it. Xbox guys, they just want their shooters, you know, or maybe they want South of Midnight. Actually, they don't because they're not playing it. But yeah, it is funny. It is funny. But yeah, to your question, will it come to Xbox? Probably not. I don't think so. I really don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think it will. You know, maybe Xbox will eventually get the complete edition whenever the fuck that comes out. But even then, it might be a hard sell. Xbox guys don't care about those games, man. You know, let's just be real. All right, now we're done. Another good episode. Let's plug some stuff. Rich, what's happening with the coalition this week?
Yeah, so in terms of the coalition, let's go to the entertainment stuff. First and foremost, myself, Dana, and Gary, we will be recording another episode of Power. Stay tuned for that on Friday. Our very good friend, Mr. Adam Vale, the TV Terminal, he just reviewed the second episode of Mobland, which is on Paramount, and actually him and Josh just finished recording their review of The Last of Us. This is actually going up on the website within the next 5 minutes. So stay tuned. Be sure to visit their YouTube channel, the TV Terminal, as well, for their review and their thoughts. And then as for the gaming side of things, I'm working on a couple of reviews and previews that will be up later this week on the Coalition. Also working on some reviews that will not be going up until the following week. But stay tuned. Definitely come back to the Throwdown because we'll be talking about some of this stuff. But also check out the website because there's other stuff coming on their website that I haven't spoken about. So just stay tuned for that.
All right, good stuff. And yeah, there's a couple games that Rich and I cannot talk about at the moment, but we will be at liberty to talk about on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Jay Shep, I specifically want you to tune into that show because you asked me a question about one of these games, and I specifically said stay tuned. Couldn't answer the question, you know. So be on the lookout for that. And that's gonna do it for us. So make sure you follow us on Twitch and Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube, join the Discord, and check us out on your favorite podcast app. Links to everything down below. Once again, I was your host Tony Polanco, and tonight I was joined by Carlos Romero.
Peace out.
Richard Bailey Jr.
Have a good week, everybody.
And Brian Manjoma.
I did it. Got the platinum for Monsanto Wilds.
You what?
Excuse me?
Yep.
Okay, you have to tell me how you got those fucking crowns, man. Fucking bullshit. All right, guys. We'll see you on Thursday.